Hey now, how is everybody doing? Welcome to Red Alert Diaries Live with Tanya E. Hood. I'm glad I get the chance to see you again, and I'm hoping that you listen to this morning's episode. And I had to come on just a little bit different because I'm running into a bunch of technical issues. So let me know if you hear this okay. And if you listen to this morning's episode, then this is one of those moments where we are creating a microcosm of legacy. Our conversation this morning is about my grandmother. She was a woman that did what a lot of us typically do, was just living life. You're doing your day to day, all that you can just to survive. But in the middle of you surviving, there are things that you do on a regular basis that gives you the opportunity to provide legacy. Every moment of every day, one something that you are doing leaves an impression, but everything that you do, somewhere along that timeline, history will begin to say how you are functioning, how you are moving forward, and will give you an opportunity to recognize what you're doing if you pay attention. A lot of us don't often pay attention to the intentional steps that we have. But if you are paying attention to what you're doing, how you're engaging, whether you're surviving this thing called life or not, you can make an impact. See, my grandmother made an impact on the neighborhood that she was living in. We often think that if we're going to create legacy or do something large or do something magnificent, we've got to do something that's global or really major. No, lots of times, that legacy moment that a lot of us will end up leaving is around those individuals that are close to you or those individuals that are in your neighborhood. So, what are you sharing and what are you showing? Pay attention to that element because it is there that we often misconstrue how this thing is supposed to look. But if you are intentional, like my grandmother, finally in the last part of her life, she was clear that she wanted to make certain that she left an impact. And the impact was a lot to do with those individuals that were in our neighborhood. There were street lights that she was able to get installed. Share that in this morning's episode. There were changes to the public school system. As a native of Washington, D.C., when I was going through my educational experience in the public school system, it wasn't really all that helpful for me. But she was impactful in making certain that there were some changes. She did that for me and for a lot of other individuals as well. So start where you are. What impacts are you going to make today? That one something that you do that's leaving legacy. We don't often pay attention to how that is. So let me give you a couple of things that I learned along the way. One, decide in advance what you would like to leave in the earth when you are no longer here. Because the people that will tell your story are people that you may never ever meet. I'm certain that Gandhi never really thought that all these people would give such credence to his one decision to make an impactful change for his people. But it's sung around the world. Martin Luther King Jr., my representation here in the United States, I know that he was intending to make change, but I don't think he even recognized how impactful he would be. There are streets named after him, holiday that has been installed, all these various elements that we don't pay attention to while we're living. But if you think about it in advance, thinking about it in advance will give you some clarity about how you will start moving forward. I decided a long time ago that I wanted to do my absolute best to let what I do impact the world for those around me for greater good. Now, granted, same thing that happens with a lot of us as we're growing up, you have to make some intentional decisions. And it wasn't until my first child was born when I held him in my arms, looking into that little boy's eyes. I wanted the world to treat him different because being a native of the United States of America, it was not an easy journey at the time that he was born in the early 90s for little black boys. And I didn't want my son to get caught up inside the chaos and the mess, so I was intentional about what I did so that if he ever had a comment, I could always go back and say, "Did you see me do that?" So I had to live a life that was an example, There were some things that I used to do, I stopped doing. Places I used to hang out, I stopped hanging out because I wanted to be intentional with the legacy that I was laying. Now, I didn't have a clear perspective of legacy as I think of legacy today, but what I did have a clear thought of that you could probably have a clear thought of now as well. I want today to be better than yesterday. And when my children take the moment to look at my life, was I consistent in what I said and what I did? So that if they have to ever point back to an example, they have an example. Because society, with the artificial intelligence and all of the social media things that we have going on, is taking control of trying to get all of our children's attention. And society, with celebrities and all the various things, we sometimes believe that they have a greater impact. But when you are a parent that is really intentional about focusing on what you want to teach your children, how you want things to manage, and them growing and being, you're a greater impact. So I realize no matter what society would say, I wanted my child to have an example that he can point back to that was tangible, and to also be in a space and place where he could talk to me. You see, one of the things that happened with me growing up, since my grandmother raised me, in a later part of her life, she was more open to me having conversations with her because she was raised and was also raising me in that environment where children are to be seen and not heard. But over time, there was a shift. There was a shift because over my growth and development elements, there was a lot of pieces that she had to navigate through. Some of you know, and for those of you that don't, I've shared this earlier in this morning's episode, that there are some developmental issues that I struggled with. Having a lisp, so I had to go through all these language classes, being dyslexic. I had one lady, some of you heard the story about Miss Anderson. She followed me from fourth grade all the way through high school, teaching me and training me and supporting me to give me the opportunity to learn to my best ability. So, as a dyslexic nerd with an electrical engineering degree, it was her and a lot of others that poured into me. But what my grandmother did for me that I shared in this morning's episode, the legacy that she gave was being intentional with teaching me, being intentional with showing me, being intentional with making certain that I had environments or spaces and places that I could go to support me on my journey. I had a village that she created to surround me in. And there are families from my neighborhood, the neighborhood that she was supporting. She supported it so that it was better for me and for those that I played with, so that we could have a better place to grow in and be in. And the people that she surrounded herself around, they became my village and they poured into me. That that element for her was just trying to make one more thing a little bit better, but it left an impact on not just me, because I also shared that I had someone reach out to me and let me know that they remember some pieces of the time period that my grandmother was around, that she was sharing and the love that she was pouring in. That part right there, the piece that people will say when you are no longer around, the part that people will remember, that is your legacy. So how are you doing with it? What are your thoughts about it? Be intentional. That's the first thing. The second thing I want to share about the intentionality is, don't let it overwhelm you. When we think about the word legacy, we think about the big things, like I was saying with Gandhi or Martin Luther King Jr. Don't think about it being so large. Yes, your legacy can impact the world. Yes, your legacy can move way beyond you, generations and generations and generations deep. But don't think too much about it. Don't get overwhelmed with it. Start with just a thought. For those of you of the next generation, the one that's immediately coming behind you, your children, think about your children. What is it you want them to know? What is it you want them to receive? That one generation focus won't allow you to be overwhelmed. And you can do the first thing, be intentional with that first generation that you're looking at. Nieces and nephews, cousins, and those people right next to you. That isn't an overwhelming moment. So don't be overwhelmed. The third thing I want you to focus on as a support system to you, is to recognize you never build legacy alone. Legacy is not built by itself. It's not built in a silo. Legacy involves other people because as long as we live on this planet, we are going to be involved with other people. So they'll be involved in your world anyway. Find a group of individuals that will support you in a dream or grow a goal. A lot of you that listen to me recognize that I share information to support divorcees because when I was going through my chaos and turmoil, I struggled with just having a vision of the next moment. So I needed people to rally around me to help me. As I got a better group of individuals to support me through my journey, it helped expand my thoughts. As my thoughts expanded further, I expand my vision for my family, both personally and professionally. So I built a business. That business gave me fuel to move forward into a better direction. And as a result of all of that, my world got better and things started changing and morphing into a greater direction. And it started with me having the right group of people around me. If you find yourself in a position where you're not really sure who do you have in your immediate circle now, just start taking account. What is your current goal? Do something simple. Start off with a simple goal. For a lot of us right now, because we're getting ready to head into the holiday with Thanksgiving in the United States, we're going to be eating a bunch of things. You may want to have your eating habits as a different goal so that you don't end up with so much excess weight. I know for me, I got a couple pounds I need to lose, and I'm already in the middle because I have started changing my diet so that I can eat better, to be better, because I don't want to have to think about the word diet. Because the word diet for me, y'all, it says die right in the word. I don't want to be bothered with hearing that or have any thoughts about that. So I decided I was going to just change how I eat. That gave me a way of having a simple goal that was easy to reach. And now I have someone to support me in it. Who are those people that can support you in it? Well, my first person that supports me is my husband. So Eric and I are working on our change in lifestyle so that it's embedded in what we do on a regular basis. That way we move into the holidays with ease. We're able to glide into other changes and adjustments that we want. But that's what I wanted to share with you. Legacy. Have you thought about it? What are your plans about it? Do you really know in this moment in time what legacy you are leaving? And if anything that I've shared today resonates with you, then it's time to reset. Take a moment, go back and listen to this morning's episode and leave your comments below and let me know your thoughts about it. But also, let me know what you're doing in your legacy moments, the impactful changes that you're making today while you are intentional, not to be overwhelmed, and picking one small goal that will spur you into the direction to start making the changes and living the life that you desire for the legacy that the future will tell about you. In the meantime, if you want someone to join you on the journey, feel free to go to my website, tanyaehood.com. There you can click on the Work With Me tab and see the various ways that we can work with one another to build a future moment of legacy together. This is Tanya E. Hood, walking in my purpose, and I want you to do the same. Take care, everyone.